Chapter 1 of Grimm's Fairy Tales, retold in one syllable words. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Doug Fajardo. Grimm's Fairy Tales, retold in one syllable words by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. Chapter 1 Hansel and Grethel. Once upon a time there dwelt near a large wood a woodman with his wife and two children, a boy named Hansel and a girl named Grethel. The man was quite poor, the children's own mother was dead, and their step mother did not care for them. Hard times came when there was no work for the man by which he could earn the means to buy bread. One night, af ter they had gone to bed, the boy and girl heard their fa ther and moth er talk ing. "What shall we do?" said the fa ther. "How can we feed the chil dren when we have not as much as two need to eat?" "We must get rid of the chil dren," said the step moth er. "Let us take them to the thick part of the wood in the morn ing, and there make them a fire, and give each of them a small piece of bread. Then we will go to our work and leave them a lone, so they will not find their way home, and we shall be freed from them." "No, wife," said he, "that I can not do. How can you have the heart to leave the poor things in the wood, where the wild beasts will soon come and tear them to bits?" "Oh, you goose," said she, "then we must all four die for want of food." And she left him no peace till she made him yield. The boy and girl heard all this, for they had not gone to sleep as their par ents thought they had. Greth el wept, and said to Hansel, "Oh, what shall we do?" But Hansel told her not to cry, for he would look out for her. And as soon as the par ents had gone to sleep, he got up, put on his coat, and crept out of doors. The moon was bright, and the small white stones which lay on the path in front of the house shone like pearls. Hansel went down on his knees, and picked up a lot of them, and put them in his pock et. Then he went back to Grethel and said, "Sleep in peace, dear sis ter. God will take care of us." The next day, as soon as the sun rose, the wife called the two chil dren. "Come," she said, "you must get up at once. We have to go to day to chop wood." Then she gave them each a piece of bread, and said, "Here is some thing for your lunch. Don't eat it till it is time, for it is all you will get." Grethel took the bread, for Hansel's pock ets were so full of stones there was no room in them for it, and so they set out on their way. As they went on, Hansel, each few steps, dropped one of the stones on the path. When they had gone far in to the wood, the fa ther told the chil dren to pick up some wood for a fire, so they should not be cold. Hansel and Grethel picked up quite a large heap of twigs, and the wife set fire to them. As the flames burned high, she said, "Now lie down by the fire and rest, while we chop wood. When it is time to go home, I will call you." Hansel and Grethel sat down by the fire, and when it was noon each ate a piece of the bread. They could hear a sound like blows of an axe, and thought their fa ther must be near. But it was not an axe, just a branch which he had bound to a tree so as to be blown to and fro by the wind. At last they fell a sleep. When they woke up it was quite dark, and Grethel be gan to cry. "How shall we get out of the wood?" But Hansel tried to com fort her by saying, "Wait a while till the moon comes up, and then we will find the way in a short time." The moon shone forth, and then Hansel took his sis ter's hand, and traced his way by the stones he had dropped on the path. All night long they walked on, and as day broke they came to their fa ther's house. They knocked at the door, and when the wife o pened it and saw them, she cried out, "You bad chil dren, why did you sleep so long in the wood? We thought you would nev er come." But the fa ther was glad, for it had made him feel sore at heart to leave them in the wood. The times grew worse and worse, and soon the chil dren heard their moth er say to their fa ther, "All is gone a gain. We have but half a loaf left, and then we must starve. The chil dren must go. We will take them deep er in to the wood, so they may not find their way out this time. It's the on ly way we can es cape death our selves." But the man felt sad, and thought it would be bet ter to share the last crust with the chil dren. But his wife would not give in to him, and in the end she had her way. The chil dren heard all this as they lay a wake in bed, and as soon as the man and his wife went to sleep, Han sel got up. He meant to pick up some more of the stones, but the wife had locked the door, and he could not get out. Still he tried to com fort Greth el, say ing, "Do not cry. Sleep in peace. God will not for sake us." At sun rise the wife came and made them get up, and gave each a slice of bread which was small er than the first piece. On the way Han sel broke his in his pock et, and now and then dropped a crumb in the path. The chil dren were led deep in to the wood, to a part in which they had nev er been be fore. A big fire was made, and the wife said to them, "Sit down here and rest, and when you feel tired you can sleep for a while. We must chop wood, but in the eve ning, when we are through, we will come for you." When noon came, Greth el shared her bread with Han sel, who had strewn his on the path. Then they went to sleep. But eve ning came, and still they were left a lone. In the dark night they woke up, and Han sel said to Greth el, "On ly wait, Greth el, till the moon comes out. Then we shall see the crumbs of bread I have dropped, and they will show us the way home." The moon shone, and they got up, but they could see no crumbs, for the flock of birds that had flown a bout in the woods and fields had picked them all up. "We shall soon find the way," Han sel kept say ing to Greth el. But they did not, and they walked the whole night long and the next day, and still they did not come out of the wood. They were weak for want of food, for they had noth ing to eat but a few ber ries which they found on a bush. Soon they got too tired to drag them selves a long, so they lay down at the foot of a tree and went to sleep. The third day since they left home came, and still they walked on, but they on ly got deep er in the wood, and Han sel saw that if help did not come soon, they must die. Just then they saw a snow white bird that sat on a bough, and sang a sweet song. It soon left off, spread its wings, and flew a way. The chil dren went af ter it till they came to a small house, on the roof of which the bird perched. When they went up close to it, they saw that the house was made of bread and cakes. This was a fine treat for the hun gry boy and girl, and each broke off a piece of the house, and be gan to eat. All at once an old wom an o pened the door and came out. The chil dren were in such a fright that they let fall what they had in their hands. But the old wom an said, "Ah, you dear chil dren, what has brought you here? Come in and stop with me, and no harm will come to you." She took them both by the hand, and led them in to the house. There she gave them a fine meal of cakes and milk, fruit and nuts, and when they were through, put them to bed in a nice room with two small beds in it, in which the chil dren lay down, and thought they were in heav en. The old wom an was kind to them at first, but in truth she was a witch who caught chil dren to eat them, and had built the bread house to serve as a trap for them. The next morn ing she came and looked at them as they slept, and mum bled to her self, "They will make a nice bite for me." Then she took up Han sel with her rough hand, and shoved him in to a small room that had a barred door, like a cage. He cried loud ly, but it was of no use. Next she took Greth el and said, "Get up, you la zy thing, and fetch some wa ter to cook food for your broth er, who must stay in that cage and get fat." When he's fat as he ought to be, I shall eat him." Greth el be gan to cry too, but it did no good, for the old witch made her do what she wished. So a nice meal was cooked for Hansel, but Greth el got noth ing but crab's claws. Each morn ing the old witch came to the cage and said, "Hansel, stick out your fin ger, so I may see if you are fat." But Hansel used to stick out a bone, and the old witch, who had poor sight, took it for his fin ger, and thought it strange that he was so lean. When 4 weeks had passed, and Hansel still kept quite lean, she got tired of wait ing, and said she would have him for din ner the next day, fat or lean. The chil dren be gan to cry, but the old witch told them to be still. "Leave off that noise," she said. "It will not help you a bit." Next morn ing she made Greth el fill the great pot with wa ter, and make a fire. "First we will bake, though," said the old witch. "The ov en is al read y hot, and I have made the bread." She pushed poor Greth el up to the ov en, in which there was a fierce fire. "Creep in," she cried, "and see if it is hot e nough, and then we will put in the bread." She meant, when Greth el got in, to shut up the oven and let her bake, so she might eat her as well as Hansel. But Greth el knew what she wished to do, and said, "I don't know how to do it. How can I creep in?" "What a goose you are!" said the old witch. "The door is large e nough. Look here, I can get in my self." And she crawled up and stuck her head in the ov en. A bright thought came to Greth el. She gave the old witch a push, and she fell in to the oven. Then Greth el shut the door and drew the bolt. How the old witch did howl! But Greth el ran to the cage and let her broth er out. "Oh, Hansel, we are free!" she said. "The old witch is dead." As soon as the door was o pened, Hansel sprang out from the cage like a bird, and they were so glad they threw their arms round each other's neck, and kissed each other, and ran a bout for joy. They went through the house, and in each cor ner stood chests of gold and pearls. "These are bet ter than the small white stones," said Hansel, as he filled his pock ets with all they could hold. "I will take some home too," said Greth el, as she filled her a pron. "Now we must go," said Hansel, "and get out of this be witched wood." When they had walked for 2 hours, they came to a large piece of wa ter. "How shall we cross?" said Hansel. "I see no bridge of any kind." "There are no boats e ither," said Greth el. "But there swims a white duck. I will ask her to help us to cross." "O, lit tle white duck, let poor Hansel and Greth el ride a cross the wa ter on your back," said she. The duck swam up to them, and Hansel sat down on his back, and told his sis ter to sit be hind. But she said, "No, that would be too much for the duck. She must take us one at a time." The good lit tle duck did so, and when they had walked a short time on the oth er side, they came at last to a part of the wood which they knew. They went on, and at last came in sight of their fath er's house. Then they be gan to run, and, burst ing in to the room, threw their arms round their fath er's neck. The poor man had not had one hap py hour since he left his chil dren in the wood, and af ter he had lost them, his wife had died too. Greth el shook her a pron, and the pearls and gems rolled out on the floor, and Hansel drew hand ful af ter hand ful from his pock et. Their sor row was now at an end, and they lived in great peace and joy. Chapter 2. Hansel and Greth el.